Testing, testing. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you could take your seats, please. Members, if you could take the stage and have your seats, that would be great. I'm going to sit with y'all. Okay. I'll sit. The mic is on. The mic is on. Are you ready?
Oh, you did it by yourself? Go on, Joe Biden. Go on, Joe. That's the way I was done.
And water that is in their purse.
You in the middle. Come on, you. You over there? Where you want to walk?
Yeah, I can right here. We need some more chairs?
Testing, testing. You all right? Good, good.
All right.
Yo.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started. We need another chair. We need one. Let's grab you one more chair. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We know that Thursday nights are always busy, and there's lots of things going on. It's election season, so we've got mayoral forums happening, candidate kickoffs, and events, but we thank you for your time for being here. I am Senator Charlene Oliver. I represent 19th District, right here where you're sitting in North Nashville, so thank you for electing me, your representative, and this is your Tennessee Black Caucus. So, yeah. We're missing a few members. There are 18 of us in the Tennessee General Assembly, and we represent places all across Tennessee, right here in Nashville and West Tennessee, such as Shelby County, Montgomery County, and Clarksville. We have Representative Ronnie Glenn, yes, in Montgomery, and then in Jackson, Johnny Shaw, Representative Johnny Shaw is in Jackson, Tennessee, as well as Knoxville and Chattanooga. We have representatives there. So we're going to start off with a word of prayer from our resident Reverend Dr. Representative Harold Love Jr. He's going to kick us off, and then we'll have our chairman do the welcome.
Thank you, Senator Oliver. Let us pray. God, we thank you for the chance to gather tonight. We thank you, Lord, for life and opportunity to serve in these positions. Bless, oh God, our deliberations, that information may be shared and that questions asked may be answered. It's our prayer in your name. Amen.
Again, welcome, and I really appreciate you all spending time out on what this was a very rainy day to come and listen. My name is Sam McKenzie. I'm the chairman of the Tennessee Black Caucus of State Legislators. I represent the 15th District in Knoxville, Knox County. So as Senator Oliver said, we represent a diverse population across this great state. But, you know, I've been spending a lot of time talking to the media today. Today is a dark day. Today, the Supreme Court showed its hand and basically said that it's an arm of the majority party right now, and that's unfortunate. But what we can do is things like we're doing now. We can come and listen and see how we can increase our strength to get a better representation in all aspects, not just higher education, but in all aspects. So we're going to spend some time talking about some of our legislation, but really the point and purpose of us being here tonight is to listen, to hear what you all have to say, to see how we can make this great state better. We live in a great state. This is a great state. It's very diverse in its geography and everything, but this last year kind of showed us that we have a lot of work to do. And so, again, we're going to talk a little bit, but we also want to hear from you. I'll start with our vice chair, and then we'll kind of go in order from there.
Hey, everybody. I am Jesse Chisholm. I represent the 85th District in Memphis, Tennessee. This is my 5th year. Got some Memphis in here. All right. So, this is my 5th year, and it's just a pleasure to be, let me go here real quick. There's a rumor that says that our black elected officials don't work together. But I'm here to tell you all that is not the truth. We fight behind enemy lines so many times, and in order for us to merely survive, we have to stay together. So it's just an honor to have so many talented people up here that we get to lock arms and march together with. So thank you so much.
Members, so what we're going to do is just have everybody introduce themselves and talk about a little bit for 2 minutes tops, on just legislation that you carried this year or any issues that you really champion. Give an update on what you've been working on.
Hey everyone, I'm Representative Torrey Harris. I represent House District 91 in Memphis, Tennessee, so parts of South Memphis, Midtown Memphis, all the way over to Twinkletown. I have been in the legislature for the last 3 years. It has been an honor and a joy to be able to work with these young men and women up here, and it is a journey that we all have had to endure. This has been a very rough year for us, but we have found some joys in all of this. For me, I ended up working on some legislation around crime and reduction that we have right now. One of those being passing the legislation for around key fobs and what it looks like for people's cars to be getting broke into. That is really, really big for us in Memphis, Tennessee, and across this state. And so we were able to do some work around that, as well as our juvenile justice area. That's also another focus for me. I also sit on children and families, so anything dealing with foster youth, adopted youth, our young people is really, really important to me as well. And so I think, I sit on transportation. I think we're going to talk about choice lanes in a little bit, so I'll be able to speak more to that.
Good afternoon, good evening. G.A. Hardaway Sr., straight out of Memphis, Shelby County. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Rep, who also is our vice chair for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. So you've got some power here that they bring your problems, but they also bring solutions. I'm out of District 93 in Memphis. I have problems that run the gamut, whether it's education or healthcare or economics or safe and sanitary housing, healthcare, of course, everything. And I thank my members, and I especially, once again, thank the leadership here for setting this town hall up and for getting you good people out this evening. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Representative Vincent Dixie, and I represent District 54, which is down the street and around the corner from here. And Senator Charlene Oliver is my senator, and I'm her state representative. And before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the National Coalition of 100 Black Women. That was a mouth. It's a mouthful. Hopefully I got it correctly. So thank you, ladies, for your support always. I sit on the Education Committee and a couple other committees, which I forget at this moment. But education and criminal justice have been my focus since I've been in the legislature and voting rights for felons, restoring their voting rights. We have a lot of work to do, but I think we can do it. And this is the opportunity for us to hear what you want us to do. But it's very important that in order for us to make any movement here in this state, we have to do it together. We can't do it separately and in silos. And that's what we're here to do. And they've gone across the state to make sure that we start to build these coalitions. Because it's going to take all of us from the grassroots organization to the treetop organizations in order to get something done. And we can do something. The gerrymandering may have set us back a little bit as far as gaining seats in the House. But there's a pathway for us to elect a statewide official as a Democrat. And we have to work really hard to do that. Man, we can't let the status quo. Now is the time for us to do what we need to do. So we all got to stand up. There's no more sitting on the sidelines, no more sitting out elections, no more taking off. So I'm here, we're here, and let's make it happen.
Good evening again. Certainly before we go any further, I want to thank the pastor of the church, Bishop Marble, for allowing us to be here. He's been a great partner with us in the community. Bishop Marble, thank you again for allowing us to be here. Harold Love, District 58. This is my 11th year in the General Assembly serving on education and finance, ways and means committees. Just a brief highlight, I had the wonderful opportunity this year to enact a piece of legislation that I believe helps our seniors tremendously. Persons may know about what's called the Property Tax Freeze Program. That's designed to allow persons with a certain income level to freeze their property taxes at a certain amount. No matter how many houses around you are sold for however much it goes up, you can freeze your property tax at that amount and stay in your home. The problem is the amount was limited by what was set years ago by about $45,000. So able to pass legislation this year across the state to raise that amount to $60,000, which will allow, I think, more seniors, persons aged 62 to 70, to stay in their homes, not just in Nashville, but all across the state of Tennessee. But I lift it up to show you that even with all of the bad pieces of legislation and the bad bills that came out of the General Assembly, there were some good bills that came out, and they were primarily sponsored and passed by the people you see here and also other colleagues. So just keep that in mind when you hear about the negative things that are coming out of the General Assembly. There are some good bills being passed, and we'll highlight more of them as you see also the paperwork you have. And certainly want to focus your mind, as Chairman Hardaway has spoken about, that we have the National Black Caucus of State Legislators will be coming here in this November. I'm the president-elect, and we'll be here November the 29th through December the 2nd. That's the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Will be in Nashville, Tennessee, and we certainly invite you to come out then for many of our sessions. Thank you.
So I guess I'm gonna take a double bite. Just two pieces of legislation that I got a chance to work on, one of which was to end solitary confinement for pregnant women, and that we got that passed, so give yourselves a hand for that. And the other thing we've been working on as a caucus across party lines is working on getting things for small businesses, which you all will hear a little bit later on. So thank you all.
Testing. Let me say good afternoon, good evening, I should say, to everyone. And I, too, want to thank the minister for allowing us to utilize this church many years ago. What was it, Reverend Thomas, back in the day? We come back here, and he was an active man in the community. Y'all had a great community leader there. And following the same footsteps, Reverend is allowing us to bring civic information to you. We really appreciate that. I also want to thank the Senator Oliver, and Representative Harold Love. Y'all know his story with his family in this community. And Representative Dixie also for convening us here, and my chairman and vice chairman over here, Dixie, and as well as Representative Chisholm. We're doing it across the state. We want you all to feel free to have access to us and get your questions answered as it relates to what is happening in this state. Now, We are a small number, but don't let the number fool you, okay? We're a mighty number. As they begin to talk with you, you'll see exactly how mighty we are. I've served since 1994. It'll be 30 years next year. When we started under Democratic leadership, we're still accomplishing some of the things that were even impossible to even think about at that particular point in time. We are doing fantastic work in spite of our numbers. Now, we're not satisfied with our numbers because when I started, we had 64 Democrats. 64. Now, this is a pop quiz. How many do we have now in the Tennessee General Assembly? Hold it. Don't tell it. You're snitching. Okay. How many do we have in the Tennessee General Assembly now? You're close. 24. Because we lost one, so it's 24. But you're right on the button. And we have to figure out why our numbers steadily decline. Why are our numbers declining? This is the messaging. We know when Obama got elected that hurt. A lot of the racism came out across the state and across the South. Okay, that impacted our numbers. But before then, we were on a decline. We have to figure out how our numbers have changed so drastically. We need about 10 more seats to stop this supermajority. They have a supermajority. So they can walk over us without us even taking a vote on it. That's very dangerous. But we have to figure out, because we were in power until from the 1800s, 1860s, all the way up. We got to figure out what it is the Democrats are not doing. Briefly, 2 pieces of legislation you all voted on. I'm from Memphis, and you all had an opportunity to vote on it. We were able to pass a bill with the help of people in this community. One, Ms. Theda out here worked on this for 6 years, where we took slavery out of the Constitution. Okay, that's the bill that we authored. You should give yourselves a round of applause. It took us 6 years to do it, and Theda was one of the front line. Ms. Murphy, just stand up there a little bit. Come on, stand up. Okay, she helped to do this. Okay, it wasn't an easy fight, but we made it, and we could not have done it with just Democrats. We could not have done it with just Black caucus. I'm trying to show you how the strategy has to work. And also, a few years ago, we passed a bill that makes rape in this state, treats it like murder now. If it's reported within 3 years and you catch the joker, you can prosecute the joker, okay? So it's just like murder now, rape. We were able to do that too. I'm gonna pass the mic on down, and of course there were others who will be able to share certain things, and you all hopefully will get some questions in as well. But thank you so much for your coming. But Mr. Chairman, you did say something that I don't care whether they pass affirmative action or not, because affirmative action never helped Black folk, okay? It helped white women mainly than anything. They changed the game. It never helped us. If you think it helped us, you show it to me, okay? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, good evening. Good evening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me first give praise and thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, in the house of the Lord. All right. And so it's a place to be. And let me also, not just the 100 Black women, to all of you, we want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedules to come and be with us. It means so much to us for people to come and share their insight, their wisdom, their understanding. We feel that we strive to represent you in a way that is acceptable to you. But if we don't hear from you, if we don't understand where you're coming from, sometimes we don't go as far as maybe we need to on issues. In regards to bills that we had this year, I had 4 bills that I had quite a bit of interest in, trying to move forward. All 4 was passed, but only one had my name on it. In other words, the other side changed the word to here, there, and found that version to be better than the version I had, okay? Okay, my colleague said call it bill jacking. Yeah. And the bill that I did pass dealt with safety for young people on public properties or the use, and trying to get private schools also to look at this. We're talking about things like having equipment. Young people have seizures. They might have a heart attack, some of the things of this nature. So we want to have this safety equipment there. We want people there who know how to use that equipment. And I just want to take another second, if I could, to talk about some things that I'm working on for this coming year. It's not just me, but a lot of people on both sides of the aisle are looking at what's called travel trains between where we say Savannah, Atlanta, Chattanooga, over here to Nashville, and I know we're talking about going over to Memphis, and we're going to have to find a way to have it going east toward Knoxville. We have to work that out. That's one thing that we're working on. It's very meaningful economically for our entire state. Another area that I'm working on is in regards to inmates, once they get out, to be able to vote. Historically, there's so much that's been put on them when they get out. It can't be a priority. They're trying to make enough money to survive, but the system is saying, you know, you have to pay court costs, you have to pay child support, which, you know, is something that should be done. But you add not just those two, but other obligations together, and they have difficulty just surviving off the monies they have. So we're going to work on that issue, and I think working together, we can get something done. One other area that I'll speak to is housing, both senior housing. It's a project that we're working on in Chattanooga, Hamilton County. I apologize. Yusuf Hakeem, State Representative for District 28, Chattanooga, Tennessee. But one of the areas we're working on is senior housing. So we're working in on that, and affordable housing. When we say affordable housing, we're not talking about something flimsy. We're not talking about something that's going to fall apart in a year or two. So again, I think working with our state agencies, I'm hopeful that across the aisle we can get the support needed to uplift people in the area of housing. Thank you.
Y'all give Yusuf a round of applause. He's a good dude. I'm Antonio Parkinson, State Representative, District 98. I represent the North Memphis area. So when you come into Memphis on I-40, everything to the left is the district I represent, and then when you get to the curve in I-40, everything to the right is what I represent, up until, the Raleigh area, for all of you that know Memphis, Raleigh area, North Memphis area. So first of all, y'all please give our chair a round of applause. He's an amazing brother. He's a foreigner to us, but he's an amazing brother, all the way out east. I'm just kidding. I just want to talk about briefly some of the legislation that I got passed this year. I got, I think, 5 or 6 bills passed this year. And I want you to understand this too. If you are able to pass one bill in 2 years as a Black Caucus member or a Democrat, you're doing very well, seriously. And I mean it. I mean it because, you know, it's a hard, arduous process to pass one piece of legislation, you know, in the Tennessee legislature, especially being a Democrat and being a member of the Black Caucus. You know, so you have to really, really do some work. I passed a bill, I don't know if y'all seen it in the news, about eyelashing, creating license or creating schools for eyelashing licenses. Let me tell you why that's important. A lot of people missed it. Well, some people missed it. The importance of that is when we pass that bill, it allows people to open up schools. Those schools then breed professionals. Those professionals go on to open up their own businesses. And we added an apprenticeship model to it also that allows them to go to school, go to work at the same time, make money, and be able to pay for that tuition. The tuition is exponentially lower than it would cost to go to a full cosmetology school. Let me give you some facts on full cosmetology schools. There are 60 school owners across the state of Tennessee that own the cosmetology schools, the big cosmetology schools, Empires, Goulds. None of them look like you. And so we did the same thing for natural hair. We pulled the natural hair licensing out of the full cosmetology schools. So we basically broke up the monopolies that the schools had on something that we own. black hair, and black beauty. And we're returning it back to the hands of the people that own it. And so that's what might have been missed so there's actually a method to my madness when I'm actually pushing this legislation for beauty and cosmetology in the black communities. And so that's one of the things that we did. I also work on a lot of paternity legislation. Some of y'all might have seen in the news about DNA, right? Make sure that those fathers are actually fathers, right? Right, that's me too. So yeah, past that. Also, I want to mention just two more things. You always hear that the youth don't have enough to do. So we were all capable, all of us had a part in bringing $500,000 to youth sports last year and another $500,000 going to youth sports this year, but this time you have to teach them soft skills. How many times have you pulled up to Popeyes and didn't get the customer service that you wanted? So the youth sports pipeline is a pipeline that we can get to a lot of children with. So that's why I use that vehicle for that. Lastly, I was a bit disappointed because I had legislation to ensure that they tested rape kits within 30 days. And the Tennessee legislature, again, like they did in 2014, did not have the political will, or the will, rather, to fund it. And so, unfortunately, we were not able to get that one passed, because it got stuck in budget, because they chose not to put the money to ensure that the safety of our women in our state. All right? I'm State Representative Antonio Parkinson. Thank you.
So I'll talk quickly about a couple of bills. One that I was able to pass. It seems like a really simple bill, but it actually took several. Oh, I've already introduced myself, so they know who I am. But one dealt with a simple thing. As children are turning 18 or still in high school, once or twice a year, just to make an announcement, send a letter home that says, hey, you're turning 18 and you may have the right to vote. Here's how you register to vote. Y'all know how hard that was? Because voting's power. Voting is power. And so it really was a difficult process. It took us through 3 to 4 years to get passed, but we was able to pass that. And one that I'm working on still, been working on, this is my 3rd year, I've been working on since I showed up here, is sports wagering, sports betting. You all brought in $68 million to the state coffers just on the tax on the sports wagering. We've created a whole department to manage it now. But where's that money going? 80% of it's going to the lottery education fund, which is already about to be endowed to where they don't need any new dollars. So all I've asked for is 2%. Let's take 2% of that. So instead of 80, 78% can still go over there, but 2% go and support our youth in our inner city and rural areas. Because I tell folks, kids in the most rural part and in the deepest urban area, they have the same issues. Black and white, they may look different, but they have the same issues. So so that is still a work in progress. So, but again, those are two of the bills that I brought this year.
So I guess I'm the only one representing the Senate in here, but I'm a freshman this year, so this was my first time in the General Assembly, and it was a time. It was a time, let me just say. Trying to get, that legislative process, as they say, the sausage, making the sausage. I got to see that up close and personal, but thankfully, I was able to pass 2 pieces of legislation this year. Got several bills out of committee this year as well and out of the Senate. So very proud about that. One of those pieces of legislation, I've worked a little bit on trying to put some stopgaps and protections and guardrails in place around gentrification happening in Nashville. As you know, a lot of us getting text messages and phone calls from real estate developers who are trying to pay you pennies on a dollar for your house and offering you cash. Anybody experienced that in Nashville? Yes. So I had a bill, home buyer harassment, piece of legislation. It made the news several times. I got people calling me about it. What this legislation would do is basically require real estate developers to only contact you one time in a calendar year. Yes, so it would kind of stop some of that harassment that you're getting over and over from these people. You don't know where they're calling you from, out of state, how they're getting your number. So what that will do, and it allows you as a homeowner to have a pathway to complain on these people. So it would allow you to complain to the Attorney General's office and the Office of Consumer Protection. And if they find to have that company be in violation, it's a $1,500 penalty for each contact. So I'm working on that piece. It's not dead right now, but it did pass the Senate this year. Really happy about that. But, got some work to do in the House. Hopefully my colleagues over here can help me push that through next year. So we get 2 years to pass a bill. I also worked on a piece of legislation called the Norma Jean Upshaw Act. And I was able to, the 2 pieces of legislation that I passed with Representative Bill Beck. So I was happy to know that his last pieces of legislation were with me, unfortunately, and God rest his soul in his passing about that. So the Norma Jean Upshaw Act, we had a woman who was living in an assisted living home in Madison. This happened last year. It made the news as well. These people were in an assisted living home, and the owners of that property sold the property to a developer. And they kicked all those people out, those senior citizens out of their house, their facility, and they didn't have anywhere to go. Norma Jean had to move to Murfreesboro temporarily to get out of and vacate the facility. So what this piece of legislation does is require at least a 60-day notice. If you live in an assisted living home and they have to vacate the property, the landlord has to give them 60 days notice to vacate. So hopefully that is a little bit of some leeway for those senior citizens. So a lot of what I do, I want to focus on legislation that protects vulnerable citizens in our community. I also did a lot of legislation around voting rights, as that's been an issue of mine that I care a lot about. One bill was, I thought, would be something non-controversial because, they don't like us to vote in Tennessee, unfortunately, the Republicans. We're 51st in voter turnout in this state, and a lot of the bills that I passed or would have passed would have boosted turnout, would have created more access to the ballot box and removed some of those hurdles. But one of those would have protected your identity. So the legislation I had was around removing the full 9-digit Social Security number off of the voter registration form. We're only one of 5 states that requires the full number on the form. And I've done voter registration through my community organizing work, and a lot of people, young, old, black, and white, do not want to put their full 9-digit number on a piece of paper and hand it to somebody, and they don't know where that number is going, they don't know where that form is going. That is your unique identifier that we have, and so that's protected information. Fortunately, that bill was sent to summer study. It would have only required your last 4 digits of your Social Security number instead. So even something as non-controversial as that was not passed through. But gonna keep working on that as well. I did bills around reducing the voter registration deadline from 30 days down to 15 days. I had an automatic voter registration bill. I have a voting rights restoration legislation that I'm gonna be working on next year. And then I also had a bill that passed at a committee that was around prison gerrymandering. That is where basically these smaller counties are counting the prison population to inflate their numbers to receive more federal funding around census dollars. So what this bill does is reverse that and have the inmate counted not in that county where they're residing in the prison, but in their home county where they are from, so that those dollars get rerouted to the home county, especially if they have families and they need to take advantage of federal benefits such as SNAP or Families First or something like that. That money goes to the right people. So those are just some of the things that I've worked on, and let's give a round of applause for the work that we all have done this past year, in spite of all of the things that you may have seen on the news that happened. So without further ado, I want to kick it over to our friends in the Tennessee Department of Economic Development. we have some representatives here to talk about a program called Fund Tennessee. And I did a town hall about that, and they're going to come again and talk about that. There's some pot of money that's available to small business owners, particularly minority business owners. And so would love for them to spend about 10, 15 minutes talking about that, answer your questions around that. How many in here own a business? Awesome. Well, this is something you definitely want to pay attention to. Wisty and Lamont, you all, and Chris, thank you. You all have the floor. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lamont Price. I'm with the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. And so that's the department that handles recruitment and retention of businesses, but we also focus on entrepreneurship. So as the senator said, we're here to talk about an initiative called Fund Tennessee, or Fund TN. All right, and this is an access to capital initiative that is federally funded, but is being implemented by our department through partners that you're going to hear from one of our partners today, Chris Hatch from Launch Tennessee. So, Fund Tennessee, or Fund TN, is $117 million in access to capital that cuts across equity investments and loans. All right, $70 million for equity investments. Think Shark Tank, but I don't want to get into the weeds, and Chris can explain that side of it. $47 million on the lending side. This is not a grant program. These are true equity instruments, true debt instruments, right? And so and the program is broken out into three components. Invest TN, which Chris Hatch from Launch Tennessee will talk about. Lend Tennessee, or Lend TN, which my colleague Wisty Pender will talk about, and Assist TN. And this is, the Assist TN portion is what we call technical assistance, right? For those small businesses and entrepreneurs who aren't quite capital ready, this funding, it's $3.8 million to help businesses become capital ready. Why is that important? You may not be quite ready for the loan. You may not be quite ready for the investment. And so the Assist TN portion is designed to help businesses become capital ready. And I'll say one more thing. Of the $117 million in capital, we have what's called a SETI focus. SETI stands for Socially and Economically Disadvantaged Individuals. Every state has this, and we have this. Our SETI percentage is 52%. And what does that mean? Of $117 million, 52% must go to SETI-owned founders or small business owners. And the SETI definition can be defined as if you're part of a minority group, you're considered SETI. If you're in a rural community, as Representative Chisholm talked about, you're considered SETI. If you're in what's called a community development financial institution investment area, which is effectively a low to moderate income census tract, you can receive that SETI designation. So 52% of the $117 million must go to SETI-owned small business owners and founders, right? And so this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the word out, make sure our communities understand what the program is. So what I'm going to do is kick it over to Wisty to talk about Lend Tennessee, and then we'll turn it over to Chris to talk about Invest TN and take any questions you may have.
And we're going to be really quick because they have allotted us 15 minutes. So with Senator Oliver, she knows that we can talk a really long time. So the important thing to know about Lend TN is it is a debt program. It is loans. And so with that, we're partnering with CDFIs, which are Community Development Financial Institutions. And basically what that is, it is a version of a bank, basically, that's regulated by Treasury. And then also MDIs, which is a Minority Depository Institution. So through our partnerships, that is how that money will be going out to potential borrowers. And again, it will depend. Do we have any bankers here today or anyone who's in the finance or lending area? Okay. So if you know someone and you want to ask them questions about it, if you want to direct them to me, there's some ways that banks are able to participate. So one of the things that's really important about this that matters to you small businesses, or even those of you who are thinking about owning a business or have friends who own businesses, this is information you can share with them. One of the things that we want this to do, our goal from the very beginning, is to support and develop an inclusive continuum of access to capital throughout Tennessee. So basically getting people the right capital at the right time. And one of the things that we're hoping to see happen over this course of the program, which is about a 9 to 10 year program, is that some of the bigger banks will go in and they'll work with smaller banks, and then that will basically de-risk loans so that more people are able to access capital, so that if there are smaller regional banks and they want to do more loans, that they'll be in a stronger position and be able to reach more people. So that is the overall goal. And if you go to fund, if you walk away with nothing else today, remember fundtennessee.org. So all spelled out, fundtennessee.org. You can put your info in there, and you'll receive information as new information comes out and it becomes available. So as of today, it is not, you can't go in and apply for a loan and get one yet, but it's very close. So that is a great way to make sure that you're on the list to receive updates, is fundtennessee.org. That was my short version. Go ahead, Chris.
And that's fund, F-U-N-D, right?
Yes. Not F-U-N, even though it could
that'll
be fun.
take you
It's
somewhere else.
F-U-N-D.
Awesome. My name is Chris Hatch. I'm a senior associate at Launch Tennessee. Thank you to the Black Caucus for having us here. And it's good to be here with all of you all. I'm a son of North Nashville. I grew up right over here on 32nd Avenue. Was slinging hot dogs at games in the hole over here at Tissue, and marching from this church to Gentry Center on MLK Day. So it's good to be here. Launch Tennessee is a public-private partnership with the state of Tennessee. We work with our good friends over at ECD to support and grow an entrepreneurial ecosystem here within the state. Our headquarters is here in Nashville, and most of our team is here in Nashville. And so we are we're members of this community and definitely want to be supportive to this community as well. The way that Launch Tennessee works, we work with organizations like the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. Anybody ever heard of the NEC? You all heard of that? Awesome. So if you haven't heard of it and you're an entrepreneur in the room, I definitely suggest that you go over to the EC, get involved, meet with their team, learn how they can support you. They have accelerator programs, mentors and advisors, and other resources that can be very beneficial as you seek to grow your business. And that's a really important and critical piece, as I'll talk about InvestTN. So InvestTN, it's a part of the Fund Tennessee program that we're partnering with ECD on. They have graciously allowed Launch Tennessee to manage the equity portion of the program, as Lamont mentioned earlier. So he alluded to Shark Tank. That's always my favorite kind of analogy there. If you've ever watched the show and you've seen the investors on that show, in real time do deals with those companies where they are exchanging a portion of ownership of the company for the capital from those investors. It's essentially the same thing. We call it venture capital, and that's kind of the work that we do. But we do it on behalf of the state. We do it to support Tennessee-based entrepreneurs and to give everyone a leg up if that's a route for you. Venture capital is not for everyone, but it might be for you. And so, as was stated earlier, we definitely suggest getting into the pipeline for these programs through Fund Tennessee or through investtn.org, where you can fill out our intake form. And just to give you some particulars around the program, it is a $70 million portion of the Fund Tennessee program. About $58 million of that is going to direct investment. So that's direct investment into, who's an entrepreneur in the room? Awesome. So companies just like those that are represented here. And so it starts out at minimum 25K check size, and we can go up from there. But certainly, like I said, the best way to learn more about the program is to visit our website, investtn.org, INVESTTN.org, and you can get more information about the website and also fill out the intake form that's there.
one thing I wanted to add to what you just commented on too is that there are lots of really great resources in Nashville in addition to the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. It's possible that you've worked with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, who is our partner for the Assist TN part of it. And that's the technical business side. So that's where you go if you need maybe legal assistance or financial assistance or accounting assistance. That's where they come in. But there are also other organizations that are CDFIs or MDIs that they work with as well, and that can be partners that could be like a Corner to Corner, or it could be a Conexión Americas, or it could be, there's a bunch of different ones across the city that are, some are neighborhoods, some are bigger, some are the whole state. So there's lots of great resources there. And what else, Lamont? Got a couple
and
more
so
minutes.
on the equity side, we will be also offering what we call angel investor training. So if you're not familiar with the equity side, we're actually going to be offering training to build the pipeline of potential, not only small businesses who can accept equity, but even investors who are looking to invest in these types of companies. So we're trying to think and be as flexible as possible to make sure on the technical training side, folks are being trained, and we have access to the capital. We're getting access to the capital to all of our folks here in Tennessee. So again, thank you to the Black Caucus. We certainly appreciate your partnership. Spread the word, fundtennessee.org.
Thank you.
Let's give them a hand, everybody. So that was a lot to unpack. So what we did to make things easier for everyone, for those of you all that have a handout, there's a QR code on there, and that will take you straight to the information that they were talking about just now. Because as we know, small business is the lifeblood of our state. And one reason we wanted to bring them to present this program to you all, a lot of times when programs roll out, we end up being in the back of the line, so we get what's left over. So this time, we wanted to change our strategy. We want, instead of getting in the back of the line, we want to be in the front of the line. So as these funds are released, as this program unwinds, we'll all have the information up front so that we all can have the information that we need to arm ourselves to not just be able to support businesses, but to be a part of businesses as well. Thank you. Yeah, so there are more programs in the back of the room. So as you leave today, if you don't already have a handout, please get one so you can have that QR code. Back to you, Senator.
Okay. So what we'll do now is just open up to questions. We have a mic in the middle of the floor. If you will, state your name and where you're from, where you live in Nashville, that would be great. And ask us anything about the legislative session that you have, or any upcoming questions about next year, or any bill ideas you have. But we would love to take your questions at this time.
Well, they made that easy, didn't they?
Not a one question? Here they come. Come on up. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so my question to the program that the three what is the red tape? You go through and you get all this out. So when they if everybody do everything, where do red tape come in? It's got to be red tape, but entrepreneurs always run into that problem. We get so far that you get frustrated with the paperwork and you just push it to the side.
Tell you what, for the sake of organization, anyone that has questions on the new business program, see Mr. Lamont and Ms. Wednesday in the back. They're going to stick around with us for a few moments for you all questions.
Yeah, but let's ask them to come and give an answer to that one question in terms of the process. That's a great question. So, Lamont, if you give an answer to that.
On behind of that question, can I ask one more, if possible? Go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, the question was about once we go through, I guess, 3 different
Go ahead. So my question was, y'all got 3 different components from my understanding to get where the level you're trying to get to. So most entrepreneurs have it's a red tape. Once you go through all these programs, you'll get what you need, and then at the end, you're not denied, you're denied for whatever reason it may be. How much red tape is it? If it's any, it may not be any, but how much red tape is it once they go through the situation?
Right. So there are application processes for both the Lend-TN side as well as the equity side. And so on the Lend-TN side, again, as Wisty mentioned, you're going to be working with CDFIs. So you're going to be using their own underwriting. So there's not always going to be a yes. So thank you for bringing that up. And on the equity side, you're going to have due diligence. On the Invest-TN side, there's not always a yes. So they will provide feedback as to what potentially would be the issue. And from there is the possibility of going through Assist-TN to get you to the point to where you are ready to go back and reapply. Again, there's not a guarantee. So on the 2 capital programs, you're right. I mean, there's an application process. On the Lend side, the lender is going to look at underwriting, right, that they would normally do. And on the equity side, they're going to provide due diligence to make sure that it's an investable idea that can be potentially sustainable.
Right. So therefore, you don't get nothing. But anyway, my main question was to the caucus, and I talked to Pastor Jones a while, and Representative Love as well. If you guys and ladies had a magic wand, what would you fix? I know everybody can answer, it would take all night, but what would be your main goal to fix? Because everybody got a motive that they're trying to do, got a bill they're trying to pass. Which one is more important than the other, or which one would be beneficial to us, to make it? Because don't nobody want to vote for, because they say vote no matter, blah, blah, blah. But it do on certain days, certain things. But what would you?
If there was one thing that I could fix, I think any of us, it touches every aspect of life that we have, is how do you solve poverty? If you can solve poverty, it will cure a lot of ills that we have in society. It'll help better education, because if you have a good job, you're not out robbing, stealing, killing, because you're worried about providing for your family. So for me, the answer is poverty. How do we solve poverty? I know that sounds like a pie in the sky type thing, but there's something that we can do in order to do that. But that's something that we're going to have to work collectively to do. And it starts with us, the people in this room, the entrepreneurs. We are, as Representative Chisholm said, we are the backbone, the bloodline of the country. We pay most of the taxes. We make most of the money individually, but collectively, we don't work together. And that's something that we have to change. We create the jobs. Like, I have 2 daughters, and one's getting ready to go off to college. But her goal when she gets out of college is not to go to work for somebody, is to create a job. And we have to change our mentality about that. But it all starts with education, but it's hard to focus when you're hungry and you don't have shoes on your feet. It's hard. So it all goes back to poverty, because that impacts crime, impacts education, it impacts our economy. So I think, for me, that's that answer.
I'm sorry, what's your representative?
Hakeem.
Yeah. He had 3 logical components that worked for me, by me out here listening. And the main thing was the guys getting out of jail. Child support, whooping you. As soon as you get out, they waiting for you. Take your license. You can't go get no money. And that goes for women too. They done got the women caught up in the child support cycle too. So it's a really racketeering game that they done flipped inside out. And if you don't have a job, you can't pay your child support, or you behind. They take your driver's license. I pay thousands of dollars a month. I talked to Representative Love this week, thousands. I got a letter last night talking about I'm 45 days behind. I pay thousands a month from being an entrepreneur because I got felonies, so I couldn't get no job from you, but I can go down here and get some business license. That's the stupidest shit. Oh, excuse me. That's the craziest thing in the world. But it worked. I mean, that's, if you don't know, that's the way you got to go. I can't get no good job, but I can give you $40 and go
get a business.
become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. But
Don't make sense.
Representative Love, if I'm not mistaken, you had a bill, I don't know how far it went down, but he had a bill that like if you were incarcerated, that it would put a hold on you wouldn't accrue. You wouldn't accrue while you're in, because right now you still accrue child support even though you're incarcerated. But also Tennessee is the only state in the union, that if you're a felon and owe child support, that you can't vote. You know, one has nothing to do with the other.
Right.
That's a civil matter, basically. So that's something that we are very cognizant in working on. I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, and I want to get to her question because she had one that affected these
You don't go
folks, and
nowhere,
they actually want to.
Okay, I'm bouncing off his question, but look, in reference of the capital, right? Here's the thing. This is my third meeting. They mentioned the CDIF. Am I saying the acronyms right? This is my look. I just came out of another meeting with some attorneys and some people from Chicago. They was mentioning this. As a small business, and I also have a nonprofit, and I'm a single mother, and I have a big vision, right? For me, getting a loan is almost not an option for me if I'm trying to build this business. And if I'm one of the business on Jefferson Street trying to stay alive and I'm only having 5 people that come through my doors, that's a problem. So how can I get a loan or even qualify for a loan that I can't even pay back? So now I'm in a position that I'm looking for funding. Like, where's the funding for us? Where's the people that come through our doors and say, hey, I just found out you're a minority business. You just opened up a business on Jefferson. We need those people. We need you all to walk through our doors and see what our needs are instead of saying, take out a loan, take out a loan, take out a loan. That means I'm going to get in debt. I'm going to close my business down. But we're advocating loans where there's money, free money out there for a minority business like us. And that ties into something else he was mentioning about the inmate. I don't know, hopefully I'm saying this right, but this is something personal for me. My cousin just passed away in jail, and he couldn't even get an autopsy. Is there any funding for inmates to get an autopsy done if the family can't afford it?
So on the small business, so as far as funding is concerned, and let me just dispel a lot of myths, and we fight this at our department all the time. There are not a lot of grants and funding for small businesses in terms of startups. There's just not. I just want to put that out there. If you've heard it, and there are websites that are fraudulent that are telling you, hey, come and get this free money. I'm telling you, it's not there. Now, there is a potential option if you know of foundations, community foundations, or foundations, if you're addressing a particular issue in the community, that a foundation would be willing to partner with you on a grant, that would be a route to take.
You know what I would like? I would like for everyone in legislative to take a walk down Jefferson Street and patronize these black businesses that's about to shut down, or just hear our stories. You want our vote? Hear our stories. You know, the lenders too. We are the unrepresented people in this community. We are actually making decisions like, do we open up in Antioch or do we come to North Nashville? Well, we're choosing to come to North Nashville because we want to be a part of that historic heritage. But we're seeing so many changes here. And just to even open up a business, it takes us 7 to 8 months to go through codes. Just to even open up a business, and that's not easy because codes don't make it easy.
Right.
So,
Thank you, sister.
go ahead.
Do you all have cars that you can leave?
We do, and yeah.
Okay. Okay, and there's a PowerPoint that we can also send out that has a lot more detailed information about the Fund Tennessee program. We'll definitely get that to you as well if you want that. See me afterwards, and I'll make sure you get it. All right, and please keep your questions succinct. We've got folks in line. We don't want them to be standing up for 30 minutes. So if you could keep it to 1 minute, that'd be great. Thank you.
So quickly, you had a second question about the inmates dying in prison all the time. So no, there's no funding for that. But what I'll say is, if an inmate dies in prison, there's no automatic autopsy for that. But to be quite honest, a guy that I grew up with, my first day in Nashville, I had a letter. Because whenever an inmate dies that's from your district, we get a letter saying that an inmate has died while incarcerated. And his mother's actually, unfortunately having to sue the state to get that information. So there's no funding for that, but there are means and mechanisms to do that. And there are people that will help out with that process.
I have 3 questions. One is there anything in the books or addressing increasing minimum wage, increasing weekly benefits for unemployment to where it's the average that one would get per month will make it affordable for them to be able to pay rent? Because as you know, affordability here in Davidson County is just not for the average. So I'm wondering, is that being addressed? Increasing that so that, I'm sorry. My question is this, is minimum wage increasing a minimum wage as well as increasing unemployment benefits, weekly unemployment benefits, to where the average person will be able to just pay the basic housing? That's one question. Second question is money available for legal fees for neighborhood leaders to fight against developers who are not being held accountable and taking care of the neighborhoods. Give you an example, affordable housing in my subdivision, they were supposed to take care of the common areas. They have not. So what they did is they did a quick claim deed to a homeowners association that doesn't even exist so they can get out of it. So now our subdivision has overgrowth and is impeding the stormwater, has caused 14 coyotes to build a den, making it unsafe for our neighborhood, but nobody's holding them accountable. That's the second one. Third one is money available for, how can I put this? Give you an example. I have put in so many work orders for our streets to be just basic maintaining. Hasn't been paved since 2007. And I'm told, oh, we don't have enough money to pave your road. We'll put you on the list, but you can afford to do everything else. And we pay property taxes in Davidson County, so I'm thinking, why can't that be addressed? But that's it.
So let me answer these questions directly.
Okay.
And where do you live, by the way? What
I
part of
live in
town?
subdivision right off of Briley and Dickerson. If you look to the right of that exit, it's just a little round cul-de-sac, Skyline Village.
Okay.
And affordable housing built that community. They went bankrupt in 2007 and just abandoned our neighborhood.
So in terms of your second and third question, and we fight for government to be done at its most local level, because we don't want the state. There was a Nashville takeover this year in legislation. We don't like that. You don't want the state getting involved in potholes in neighborhoods and cutting of grass in neighborhoods. It's not the state's role. So I will, again, we have a lot of representatives from the Nashville area for those two. In terms of the minimum wage, currently, just so you know, the law in the book ties minimum wage to the federal minimum wage. Every year, we're trying to break that. We introduce pieces of legislation to break that, to pay us more, pay our constituents more, to give them a living wage. It goes nowhere because we are a minorities and a minority party, and so we just don't get traction. But every year, we push for that, and we will continue to do that. The way we fix that is elect more people that look a lot like us, and I think we'll move on. Someone else may want to.
Well, let me go with that as well. De facto, the minimum wage has already been raised because nobody's working for it. It's $7.25 an hour. Nobody's going to work for it. You can't do anything for that. You can have 3 of those jobs that can't pay rent in Nashville or anywhere. But it's a federal deal, as my colleague is saying. Other thing is this, those problems that you're talking about right now, they are city council problems. We get them all the time. roads in the community and things of that nature, you got to make your city council work as well. Such as we do, you got to make those guys and young ladies down there do the job for the community, directly for the community. Red lights, the potholes, all that stuff, the easement, all the stuff to put in your neighborhood, overlook, trash, all that. That's city stuff. State will never deal with that. But to answer your first and second question, yes, we are, and we are continually working on trying to get not a minimum wage, but we want a living wage, what we talked about. We want a living wage. I think the last report I saw in Nashville, it requires about $75,000, $80,000 you got to make 80 grand to live here. Now, when I started here, it was nothing like that. This place is too high. The hotel rooms, I mean, my God, it costs a lot of money to live in Nashville, and that's something that we have to be conscious of. The city council, there again, have to deal with affordable housing. You got to have affordable housing. You're pushing all the people out. Then the gas is high. So it's a vicious cycle. But those are city problems that you got to make sure your mayors, you got all these mayoral candidates and people in your city council got to address those issues for you. We can't fix those, Okay, I'm sorry, Senator, go ahead, Senator.
I was just going to suggest one more thing is to look into the participatory budgeting committee that Mayor Cooper
I've already
done
been,
that.
I'm a part of that committee, and
Okay.
I've already told them a lot of the things, and they don't listen to me.
Yes, stay on. Mhm.
I even suggested fixing, a lot of container homes are vacant, and they're just sitting. I even suggested fixing up container homes for the homeless and the poor, to where they have an address that they can put down. But they said basically nobody's going to pay that. But that's it.
My name is Dan Lane. I'm a real estate broker. Been a broker in Nashville for about 35 years. The state has passed legislation to restrict certain incentives that cities can give developers to build more, quote, affordable housing. Now, my position is we don't need affordable housing. What we need to promote is housing for all income levels, because for most people, I live in the Bartow area, and if you say affordable housing out there, most of my friends and family say, we don't want it, because when they think about affordable housing, they think about the project. So I said we need to start talking about building houses for all income levels. And I raised the issue, what is affordable? If I make $200,000 a year, what is affordable? If I make $60,000 a year, what is affordable? So affordable has a wide definition. Now, my question to you is, what can you as a caucus look at those restricted legislation that has passed that avoid the city to give certain incentives to developers who would like to build more housing for all the income levels?
We'll certainly look at it. I know a few years back we did propose this legislation, and one of our colleagues pushed back against it and killed the bill. One thing that we're finding now is that as Nashville's affordability is becoming more difficult, a lot of Nashvillians are moving into other counties, Robertson, Rutherford, Dixon, Montgomery, and now those representatives are having same issues. So we may find an opportunity in the very soon future to have more conversations about available housing, because what we're finding surrounding counties are having the same issue. So we also need to talk to the home builders, right? Because their conversations about what things will be put into homes also affect the pricing of homes. So you have, I think, our commitment that we'll be looking into that, because now our colleagues are seeing that it is needed in the surrounding areas. And affordable housing, available housing are things that all of us indeed want. What we also find is that, unfortunately, we have instances where, I think we discussed in one of our committees, where corporations are coming in and buying houses, and then they're renting those out at higher rates. And that's becoming a huge problem in Tennessee, because now what you have is a corporation who realizes that you can rent a house in Nashville for $1,400, $1,500 for a 1 or 2 bedrooms. So that's one thing we're having to deal with also. It's not illegal for them to do it, but it's becoming problematic. So we'll look at those issues of corporations going. I think Representative Parkinson wants to add a piece in there to it.
Thank you, Leader Love, and I think that's vitally important. You know, we have to factor in these hedge fund owners that are buying up all of the inventory in the market. And it's creating a false inflation, because as they buy up the inventory, they cause the rates to go up. And they're not reselling these properties, they're renting them. And when they rent them, and especially as they squeeze down the inventory, they raise the rates of rent up. When the rates of rent go up, that means that individual needs to make more money to be able to afford the house. And if that happens, that means the employers need to pay more money, which is going to cause the cost of products to go up to the consumer, which is a false inflation, simply created by these hedge fund owners, because they understand how much inventory is available in the market, and they buy it up. That's how much money they have. They buy it up and squeeze the market down, and it's supply and demand. And once that market is squeezed down, that the cost of the property goes through the roof. And we're talking about rental properties. We're not talking about buying properties. We're talking about the rental market. And it's a problem that's very problematic.
My colleague is right on point. Those venture capitalists and hedge funders do this, and they start looking at the South because the land was much cheaper than New York, California, some of these other places. And they're jacking it up, but on the front end, what we have to do as governmental agencies, we got to figure out how to put restrictions on how much they can buy and capitate that rent, because they're pricing us out of the market, creating, as my colleague has said, a false sense of scarcity, inflation, okay? But they're doing it, and they started doing it before. I think municipalities even caught on to what they were doing. Hedge funds, they got to put the money somewhere. The money has to work. Venture capitalists, they got to put the money somewhere. The money has to work. And while the governmental agencies, we're looking over here trying to deal with a lot of these socialists and other things, they're in business, but we're going to have to restrict them. And it's been talked about, and it's great to hear your inquiry about it. And one of the things we were looking at in Memphis down there is to make sure that when they're building, they got integrated housing in there where you can have a number for the range that you're talking about, because people have to have somewhere to live. It's just that simple. We have to.
Yeah, I agree with you, but most cities, and I know here in Nashville, if you talk with developers and you talk with city officials, they said the state said we can only give certain incentive for private builders to build housing for all income levels, and that law need to be changed. And my question is, will y'all take a look at that law and as a caucus, see if we can get it changed some in the near future? Because many developers will say, if you allow me to build 10 more houses, then I will make 15 to 20% what I build more in range where people can afford it, who are earning 60, 70% of their median income.
Yes, sir. We will look into it. Thank you, sir.
Well, good evening to everybody. I'm Nicole Rowan, and I'm a nonprofit CEO, but I'm also an entrepreneur and a mother of elementary and middle-aged children. And I am someone that lived in Davidson County for 6 years, and because of non-affordable housing and the pricing, has had to move to Sumner County. So the things that are reporting to me are housing, transportation, education, and safety, and my questions are around that. So please elaborate on the legislation that was passed on third grade retention. Where are we on that? And also you talked about the travel trains outside of our city. What are the plans for travel trains or some type of mass transit that will help me with the traffic from Sumner County as I come into Nashville to work and to do things? And then the last thing, affordable housing, I think we need to work more on the preservation of what's existing and universal design to help people to age in place versus pushing them out into what's affordable because they've been priced out due to gentrification.
Well, you want me to jump on third grade retention?
yeah, do that.
I'll talk about that one first. So, you know, that one's going to be it's going to be tough. It is tough. Now, I firmly believe, so I want to be clear about my position, and that is you do learn how to read up to the third grade, and then you read to learn the calculus, the biology, the history after the third grade. So the third grade is a pivotal point, and we're not, as a state, black, white, blue, green, we're not meeting the mark. So something has to be done. So with that said, was this the magic 8-ball that's going to fix everything? No, it wasn't. It's going to be, it's extremely punitive. We passed it, I guess, in 21 with no idea how we were going to implement it, and we talked about some things. We're implementing it now, and what's happening is there's a lot more people on that list. And as we talked about, the schools are going to look different now. So now you're going to have an extra third grade class that you're not prepared to have. You're going to have the same number of fourth grade classes. How are you going to prepare for that? The one thing that the program did do was put a lot of resources in teaching the student how to read, okay, through large group summer camps, smaller tutorial sessions, and if they're still not getting a one-on-one tutorial. So there's a lot of resources to help our children learn how to read at or near grade level. But it's not where it needs to be. This year, we were able to move the mark, that cut score, down to where the local school, Metro Nashville Public School System, knows way better than the state. Like I said, I try to push everything to the local level, to allow the locals to say, was this kid having a bad day? Did he just lose his aunt? Did she just have a traumatic experience? Was there a reason that they did not do well on the test? Or are they really, you know, with a little more guidance, good? And so that we're allowing those students above this new cut score to appeal the process and to have the school systems help out with the appeal. So we made some movement, but there's still going to be a lot of kids on that list. And what I'm encouraging everybody to do is to complain. It's to say, this isn't fixed yet. We knew when we passed it that it wasn't going to be fixed, but we got a lot more work to do. There's a lot more enhancements to make this program what everybody wants it to be. And what that is our students reading at or approaching grade level by the third or fourth grade. So I'll let you all.
One of the challenges that many of us who served in the Education Committee for quite some time have had over the years is identifying the problem and trying to point it out to the Department of Ed or the governor or our colleagues and saying things like, it's not going to work, like the Achievement School District that many of us kept saying for years and years and years. It's not gonna work. It's not working in Shelby County, it's not working in Davidson County. And then finally we saw the Achievement School District come to an end. Same thing with the third grade retention law. We saw that it was not gonna happen. We kept trying to warn our colleagues it was not gonna happen. And we knew problems were coming, and now everyone sees the problems are coming. And so I know that we'll have many discussions around many things. Let me put this out there just as a general note, because you're a prime example of how you can help us going forward. Davidson County and Shelby County are not where we're gonna get more persons elected from. We have to elect outside of those counties. So a person like you, who has moved to Sumner County, right? You might be discouraged right now because the person representing you may not line up with all of your ideals. But part of our responsibility and challenge is, and Senator Oliver is an expert at this, is organizing those voters who in small pockets who may not know that you're not the only one in Sumner County, right? Who may not know that there's 100 of you within a 5-mile radius, who may not realize there's 200 of you all at the same voting precinct, but you just don't know because no one has organized you to say, hey, register to vote in Sumner County, and then when that next election comes up, turn out to vote. And so part of what we're gonna have to do is stay in contact with folks like you so that when the next election comes up,
we can get you out to vote in Sumner County, in Rutherford County, in Robertson County, in Dixon County, in Wilson County, right? To then elect folks from outside of Davidson and Shelby counties to increase our numbers.
You can skip the last one. But what I will say is thank you for giving a little bit of hope and practical feedback.
Well, let me tell you this before you leave. The state got it wrong. They never should have done the test this year because of COVID. 2 years, 2.5 years across the country, okay? Hadn't learned anything, okay? We just simply got it wrong, and it's a problem across the entire country. I'm surprised that we didn't have lawsuits filed on the state because how can you quiz somebody on something they were not taught? They were not in school, okay? So we still need to continue to fight the effort and certainly do, as my colleague just said, as I said earlier on, we need 10 more seats, and we got to find them somewhere, and it won't be in Shelby, it won't be in Davidson. But the state got it wrong. We were all on the right track, I can promise you that. We were. And thank you for your input, too.
Thank you for your service.
Ma'am, just real quick, you asked about transportation. Yes, ma'am. Just yesterday, as a matter of fact, well, let me go back. So we ran legislation to study passenger rail across the entire state. I was able to get that passed, and then my colleague was Representative Powell from Davidson County. He ran something again, something also. So in that passed, we combined the two, and it was studied at TASER, Tennessee Advisory Committee on Intergovernmental Relations, which we met yesterday and today. We've passed the recommendations that TASER said we need to do to make this happen. And inside of that were those recommendations. As a matter of fact, I tweeted it today at TN Rep Parkinson, by the way. Inside of those recommendations were increased bus services to connect the cities. And also inside of those recommendations were the tiers for rail across the entire state and how Tennessee Department of Transportation needs to proceed so that we can get rail across the entire state and connect cities by buses at the same time. So hope it's down the road, but we've started the process. And it lets you know that your Tennessee Black Caucus, we're all here, we're all on the same page, and we're trying to make something happen. Okay, thank you.
The lead into my question is this. The Republican Party, I promise you, I believe that while we be sleeping, they be holding meetings. Because I don't care what issue, what problem, what law comes up. You ask any one of them on a question on the federal level, on the state level, on the local level. They all have the same answer. Now, we talk about voter turnout and the low voter turnout for Democrats. The Republicans, they get their voters out because their voters feel like that they're fighting for them. And the problem that I see with the Democrats, I'm not being too critical of you guys, but it just seems like you guys like to play nice, and you seem like you bring a knife to a gunfight. People will turn out when they feel like you're fighting for them. And that seems to be a problem over the last few years, maybe say 6 or 7, that Democrats just don't feel like their representatives are fighting for. So my question is, what are you guys going to do? Are you guys going to start getting on the same page? Because that's what seems to motivate them, is that you ask them a question, I don't care what it is, they all have the same answer. I probably seen like while we were sleeping, they had a meeting. Because something happened tonight. You ask one of them tomorrow, and all of them have the same answer. So my question is, how do you guys organize it? You guys come up with some of that same kind of tactics to make us feel like you're fighting for us, and people will turn out. I think that may not be the only problem to the low voter turnout, but that is one of the problems. Because people, if they feel like you're fighting for them, that's going to motivate them to come out. And so that's my question. My name is William Johnson, and I live in Hadley Park Towers. I'm right here in this neighborhood. So,
all right. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. If I could, I'm going to talk, I guess, about both sides of the aisle. And when we talk about the Republicans, one of the entities they have is a group called ALEX. And what they do is give them talking points, just as you say, they carry it across the nation. And what I'm going to use the term is that they control the narrative. They control the discussion because they say it, the same thing over and over. And as a result of that, people think, well, maybe that's the way things are. Now, when it comes to us Democrats, now, like you say, some of us, will try to deal with facts and reason with people, but there are also those among us who will get down and dirty when necessary, okay? And so we are striving to be the best representatives we can be, but I would also say to you, it all depends on maybe what the community you come from. You could be perceived as a mad black man, a mad black woman. Oh, we don't want nobody like that representing us. All right, so we're trying to deal with that balance. But I appreciate what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but we can get those basic numbers up. As far as the number of representatives, we can make a difference in the narrative that's being put out there.
Their positions are whacked. Their whacked is all outdoors, but like they push the same, they on the same page and they push. They say it over and over again, and the people believe it, and they come out and they vote for it.
Well, let me share this with you. I know you want to get into shade. This is the deal. A couple with that, man. The fact of it is, one of the worst fights we have up there, I've been there a long time, as I shared with y'all earlier, is that when they took power, they don't even want us to debate. They control the debate, okay? They can cut the debate off. This man could be up talking, senator could be up talking, any of these gentlemen could be up talking, and they'll shut it down. Now, we're not going to be able to stop it. We fuss about it, sometimes come a little closer than what we should, especially with the public watching. We'll be able to stop it when we get our numbers. We got to win some seats, okay? We got to win some seats in other areas. We got to win some seats. We need 10 seats to stop the supermajority. We got to win in some of these other areas that Brother Harold Love was talking about, Leader Love was talking about. We got to win in some of these other areas, okay? We fight like cats and dogs. Y'all don't see it, okay? Now, I'm talking about on the floor and behind the scenes as well. However, you got to understand strategy too. You got to be able to get something passed. He passed 5 bills. He said you're lucky if you get 1 bill passed. So you got to have a tactic that will allow you to speak up for the people and be effective at the same time, because at the end of the day, if they told you the kind of stuff we brought back to the district, you don't get that not being effective. It's more than what you just see in order to bring things back to the district. Am I right, guys? Okay. So you got to do that, and we do. And one thing I'll say about these ladies and these gentlemen up here, they're not bashful. Trust me, these cats are not bashful. Not at all. I'm sorry, come on.
I just want to say one thing about this voter turnout thing. We could spend all day talking about all of these structural, institutional problems and laws that are in place to, by design, keep the numbers low. It ain't just Democrats that's not voting. Republicans ain't voting for them neither. We're only 17% of the population in Tennessee is black folks. So when you talk about the numbers being low, they don't want to come out and vote for these folks that's on the Hill. They don't represent their own voters. All they got to do is win a primary with a few thousand votes, and they in there. So they're not truly representing the people and the masses of Tennessee as well. So, and number one, they've rigged the system through gerrymandering. We only have 1 Democratic representative in Congress. They stole a House seat from us in Nashville. They tried to expel 2 of our black representatives. They are rigging the system. And so until we get out of our comfort zone, out of Nashville and Memphis, and start organizing in some of these suburban counties and rural counties, and start talking to their voters about how bad bills are affecting their voters, and start bringing some of this stuff to light, then we can start turning some stuff around.
I'd just like to add one last thing, and then we can move on. There's a reason why we have a black caucus, and then we have another caucus, right?
Come on, brother.
Our interests are different.
That's right.
And when you look at the Democratic Party, it's not a homogenous pool of people like it is Republicans. Most of them look alike, act alike, think alike. we have a different pool of people. It's very diverse. Our interests are different. And some of the people that are leaders in our party may not have the same interests that we have in the Black Caucus. That's why there is a Black Caucus. So hopefully you can read between the lines there without me saying what but I say it if I need to say it. But my point is saying that it's hard to be on the same page when everybody have different agendas. And then when we have one agenda, our agenda here is 4 things. They probably heard me say this 5 million times. How do we put more food on the table? How do we give you more money to pay your bills, keep a roof over your head, and make sure you can go to the doctor without having to file bankruptcy? That's all we care about. We take care of that, everything else falls into place. But everybody has these other agendas. We're worried about what bathrooms people are using. We're worried about what kind of shows people are looking at that doesn't impact our lives at all. But we know what we have to do, but it's not always us because we may have the wrong people in those places of power.
If I can add this piece too real quick, and I'll take what I'll call blame for this. We do not tell our story enough of what we've done. So here's what I'm committed to doing is telling more. We've gotten so much stuff done, but we haven't told the story. For example, because of a collaboration between myself and Antonio Parkinson, he said some things on the House floor I couldn't say. It caused a meeting with then Speaker Sexton, which led to a committee being formed to investigate TSU's money. But we don't tell that story. We don't talk about our wins and our gains as much as we should. And so I think if we tell more about what we've had done and the things that we've had done with the money given to Chattanooga this year and Knoxville, right? Record amount of money that Black Caucus members worked hard on and got in the budget, right? And so I think if we start telling our story more about what we've done, it'll also let voters know more that we up there are and we're working and bringing things back. This gentleman proposed the sales tax holiday, right? And the governor said, we can't do it. Costs too much money. And then a few weeks later, the governor announces, I've decided. No, these are real stories. We have situations where we have proposed bills and policies, right? And policy jacking, right? And so, like Representative Hakeem said, he had 4 bills he was interested in, but only one of them had his name on it. So what we find oftentimes is we have to start telling our story about the fact that we propose something and then they conveniently, came up with the idea from everything, even from things that you wouldn't think we're working on, like taking the felony off of marijuana possession for half ounce or less. That was a bill I carried.
All right.
And I'm saying, and then it got talked bad about in the committee the next year. Somebody had the same bill, the same guy, right? So that's what I'm committed to, is talking more about what we proposed and what we've gotten passed, so you all will know what we've been doing.
There's some other people that want to ask some questions. But anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the question, but that was just an observation that I made, and I thought I presented to you guys. And Hell Love, he just hit on what I'm talking about. Y'all got to tell y'all story. Y'all got to speak up. But anyway, I'm gone.
Lastly, in the interest of time, the young lady in the yellow is the last person with the question. If anybody else has any questions, get up now, because I think right now she's the last one.
Please keep it to one question.
I'll just make a quick comment. I'm a little shorter, sorry, but I think the people appreciate a humble brag. So it's great to hear about all of the work that you're doing, and thank you so much for your time. Hi, Mom and Dad. I'm just kidding. I'm just curious. This may be like out of everybody's jurisdiction, but I was really disturbed by the situation with Tyree Nichols, and I was just curious if the Community Oversight Board, I know that we were doing in Davidson County, Nashville, if that's under the Metro City Council jurisdiction. And I know that was like a pilot program, I believe. And I don't know if that's been renewed, or I'm just curious if that model is being implemented or used as inspiration for other metropolitan cities in the state of Tennessee. And if we're in the Lord's house, so indulge me with the ambition, right? I know it's ambitious, but is there any kind of like statewide initiative policy that could require something like that? It's a big question.
In terms of the community oversight boards, to be quite honest, it's gone in the opposite direction. Knoxville, Knox County, we had Juan Daniels died via suicide, and we created a strong community oversight board. It had subpoena power. They really were a true oversight board. And the state of Tennessee systemically cut them to where they're pretty much a guidance type of organization. And just this past year, we made that a statewide thing. So, these are, and the humble brag is we fought. Now, we went down, but we definitely went down fighting. But they passed several bills that just gutted the community oversight boards. What we're hoping is that people like yourself, people like the Nashville Community Oversight Board would sue. Just yesterday, I think it was, and I say we, the General Assembly, we didn't vote for it, went to gut Nashville's Airport Authority, and the FAA said no to that. They passed gender affirming care to cut that off, and that was ruled unconstitutional in an appellate court, so it's going to be appealed. So it really is, you all deal, until we get our numbers right, there will continue to be bad bills passed like that one that gutted the program, that could have potentially prevented a Tyree Nichols type of situation by having a strong oversight board. But until we change the numbers, it's going to be up to citizens to take it into their own hands and create lawsuits to do that.
Hey, real quick, in regards to Tyree Nichols, there was a bill, we passed a bill this year. It's been quiet because Tennessee 3 kind of overshadowed a lot of things that were passed this year. But prior to, as a matter of fact, July 1st it kicks in. But before that, if an individual like yourself assaulted a law enforcement officer, then you will receive enhancements on your sentence. Now we just passed a bill that says if an officer assaults someone illegally, well, any assault is illegal, but if an officer assaults someone, kills someone, they also receive enhancements on their penalty now. And so that was a bill that I was able to get passed this year. Thank you.
But finally, what we want is when police officers across this country, across the state, or in this city, when they violate people's rights, we want their butts prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That's what we want. If not, the community is going to come out enraged and make sure that it's done. And that's not against police officers, because we need police officers to come to us, because you have some knuckleheads out here who do even worse, okay? But we want our citizens to be treated fairly. Black citizens, white citizens, all citizens to be treated fairly. That's what we want as well, okay? Next young man. Thank you. Thank you as well.
I just want to tell you, I served as the vice chair of the Community Oversight Board for 3 years, so if you want an oversight question, I definitely can answer any question that you have. My name is Jamel Campbell-Gooch. I'm a community organizer and candidate for this District 21 City Council seat. First, I want to say thank you. This is my second year being here, and I really appreciate you all coming and explaining what you all are going on. And one thing that you all told us, which I'm very happy you are, is that some of these are local issues. And I definitely identify with a lot of the folks, especially from North Nashville, who are pissed. I get pissed every time I walk down my street and see several tall and skinnies that are nothing but Airbnbs, while we have people who can't afford to live in this district. So I definitely identify that, and we can talk about fighting, and that is the question that I have. Are there any local barriers in Davidson County that you all experience that we could be watching out for? If I can give you a quick example. And I just want to make sure I got this right. I went to the town hall where they talked about the Traffic Modernization Act, if I said that right, gave $3.3 billion. But locally, they talked about an allocation to where we would start getting an allocation to our local budget or to our local dollars to actually fix things that are happening in our area. One area, and most people probably know this, but that area of Clarksville Highway from Save-A-Lot all the way down to Jefferson Street exactly tears your car up. So I'm trying to figure out who we need to apply pressure on as a community, because I am a community organizer, to make sure that, they mentioned that we were 30 years behind schedule with infrastructure, to make sure those dollars actually are seen in District 21. Thank you.
Yeah, traffic modernization dollars coming in, I don't know if they actually gonna go to road repairs. Now, a few years back when we had the Improve Act, we had county road dollars that came in, and Davidson County got some of those county road dollars. Now, there's a tricky thing with roads. For example, Rosa Parks is actually a state highway, and sometimes those roads cut off. And bridge maintenance, oddly enough, is state property because it goes over the highway. So I would suggest that you check with councilman about that process, or if you're successful, right, then that becomes your, right now I'm saying, no, because one thing we talked about was the fact that it's good to educate the public on who is over what, and those roads that go from, to your point, Clarksville Highway around there do tear your car up, right? So I think we need to check and see. Let me make sure that that's local and not state, all right? Because I do know, again, like that's why we were able to rename, the state was able to rename Rosa Parks because it's a state highway versus Metro, which renamed like John Lewis Way and MLK. But I will promise you, I'll check on that and see if that's not us or somebody else. Okay.
I am the founder of Mothers Overcoming Marginal Systems, a nonprofit here, and I'm a workforce development coach for the Connecting Forward program at Goodwill. And I just want to see, and that project is years behind being completed, by the way, but I want to see, like maybe when people are on government assistance such as food stamps, housing, Section 8, and you report a change, I would like to see them give people maybe 60 days, 90 days before, their things are being chopped, because soon as you make a report, the next month your food stamps is cut, or the next month, they're raising your rent based off of what that income is. And every day I'm seeing families, even my family last year was homeless for 3 months. And it's just like, either people, in my situation, I want to work because I want to be a homeowner. But sometimes it's a lot easier to sit at home and collect benefits because it's like, when I get a job, I can't afford to pay my bills and buy food out of pocket, or I can't afford to put gas in my car to make this commute, depending on what area of the city you're working in. And so it's like, could they not give more of a cushion? Because just because you report that you got a job, you may not get a full check for a month or two because you may be in training, and then you can go home early today. So it takes a minute for that 40-hour work week check to start rolling in, but you already cut the benefits of people. And then it's like, if I make $18, $19, $20 an hour, now I no longer qualify for food stamps because I make too much. So this is just something that personally I've dealt with, that I see my clients deal with. And then it's like, you really have to make a choice on feeding your family or paying bills and putting gas in the car. And so that leads to crime, because when people can't feed their family, what they gonna do? They gonna steal, they gonna rob. Now the kids is out here, the teenagers are in the street committing crimes. So I just feel like that would be helpful if they could give families at least a 2 to 3 month cushion before changing the benefits.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. And that's, I think light bulbs went off all across there. And a vehicle to do that, give us some hints. We have we have an excess in what we call our TANF funds, and that's temporary assistance to needy families. That's a great way to spend that money, and I'll guarantee you that at least one of us will jump on that one this year. All right.
I just have a really, really quick question. I want to first of all thank you all for hosting this tonight. My name is Delia Townsend. I live in North Nashville. St. Oliver is my representative, and Representative Dixie. And since you mentioned Tennessee State, Harold, with them, the state giving Dr. Glover and her team a year to turn the school around, can you briefly talk about where they are, really quick, just where we are with? I know I probably need to go to some meetings since we are classmates.
Just very briefly, and thank you. Great member of the AME Church right there for you, ladies and gentlemen, right there. All right. Just for an example, Senator Oliver sits on the Government Operations Committee, and the way that every entity operates is they have a sunrise and a sunset. Once the state government establishes them, they have a sunrise, and they are sun-risen with legislation, all right? They are sunset also with legislation. And so what the state did last year was took no action on the future of the board as an entity, not the members, but the board as an entity. There was a proposal to extend the board's existence for 2 more years and then come back and review it. There was also a proposal to extend it for 1 more year, but that legislation also included a reduction in the size of the board from 10 to 5. Since nothing was done and TSU's board was set to sunset on June 30th, which is tomorrow, there was going to be a wind down period if legislation was brought to say that that would happen. Since nothing happened, the long and short of it is Tennessee State's board is still operating in the same manner that if you serve on a board, you serve until your successor is appointed. Even if your time goes beyond your time of service, if your board appointment time comes and goes and no one is appointed to take your place, you still get to serve in that position. So our goal is to next year work in session to make sure that Tennessee State's board gets at least 2 years. Again, the entity, not the members, because members can roll on and off the board depending upon when their time is up. Like we have 2 members up now who are supposed to be reappointed or their successors appointed. So that is the long and short answer of it. Tennessee State's board is still in existence. As a matter of fact, they met 2 weeks ago. They met, the Housing Committee met yesterday to discuss housing. So everything is going okay with the board and its existence.
My name is Chaos. I'm a community activist and a writer. I reside in Bardo area of Nashville. I'd like to know what we as citizens and property owners can do about the problem of developers weaponizing codes against property owners. I have on my property a storage shed that has been there for at least 22 years. I have developers contact me every day trying to purchase my property. Now that I've refused, all of a sudden I've been besieged by codes about the storage shed. So what can we do about that?
Yeah, you know, as we talked about earlier, so I'll answer it in 2 ways. We have introduced legislation. There was a do not call list, y'all remember that, and it worked for a while, and now they've got these fancy algorithms. Someone call you from South Carolina one day, Georgia the next. We're still chasing that rabbit, may not able to ever catch up to quit all those annoying calls of folks trying to buy your house, as Senator Oliver talked about. She's also working extremely hard in that world. But as it relates to, you know, I'm from Knoxville. It's on the, you know, the eastern side of the state. We have the same issues, folks. Codes can be a weapon, right? So people try to weaponize codes enforcement. What I'll ask you to do is drill that down to local government. You don't want this. If this General Assembly had anything to do with codes, a lot of our houses would not exist. So I don't want, I would never want to manage that at the state level, and that's me personally. But that's something that we have 3 representatives in the Metro Nashville, Davidson County areas with one senator and 2 representatives, I'll say get with them, and they'll put you in the right people's hands.
The other thing is this, is that if you find out, and we know that it happens, you've got to get some proof that these guys are playing dirty pool, okay? What we need to do is we need to bring forth acknowledgement in the public, file lawsuits, how they swindling African-American people, poor people out of their land because of the code. If the code department is working with these venture capitalists, some of these other people trying to get your property, that's a problem. Okay, we have to call in the attorneys, we have to band together and file the lawsuits and expose them. You know what a thief doesn't like? Thieves don't like light. We have to bring light to it, okay? But we have to do it. Still, it's a local deal, but it's a community. You got all these community activists in here. These are things when you're doing your town hall meetings that we talk about, because your property is critical. You got to have somewhere to lay your head. Okay, the fox got a den, okay? We have to have somewhere to lay our heads, but we have to also fight them at every level. And the lawsuits are things we need to bring, expose those connectivities. Okay, thank you.
Long story short, and I'll finish up, you just have to contact your council person. It's going to either be Quante Toombs or Jonathan Hall at this point. So you may want to wait till after the election. But you might want to, those are the 2 people that you want to contact.
Last question.
Good evening. I won't be long, but I am Kenise Burks. I'm a mother here, and I want to piggyback off of the retention, the 3rd grade retention. And something that I didn't hear mentioned is with the law being passed and the provisions to, help with the reading proficiency, all of the students were, mandated who didn't meet the proficiency level, mandated to go to the Promising Scholars Program, a program that's not even proven, okay? A program that even from the liaisons of the Promising Scholars Program says that they have over 30 children in classrooms. And how is that going to help when the classrooms are looking just like the classrooms during the school year? And then also personally, I'm a mother who's going to fight for my child, and speaking to the Chief of Staff at the Department of Education, Tess Yates, they have even, rebuted, other programs outside of the Promising Scholars Program that who could have taken some of these children to really help them on a one-on-one basis. So the classrooms aren't looking like 30 children a classroom, but more so 9 students. My daughter is actually in a reading literacy program this summer that is a proven program but had been rejected by the Department of Education, whom they say, well, we report to the General Assembly. So my question is, as I'm speaking with the Chief of Staff and the people who are over this, and then they're putting it back on you all, who's making the rules and who's making the laws? Because this needs to be changed, and it really looks like money on children's heads to go to these programs. And when it's time for the assessment at the end of the summer, the students could definitely still be in the same program. But I don't know who mentioned actually suing the state, but I'm a mother that is down for that, because my child did not go to the Promising Scholars Program because it's not a proven program. The program that she is in is a proven program, and she is only the 8th student in that class. So my question is, who making the rules? Who do we need to talk to? Because nobody wants to, say it's them.
Right. So first of all, both myself and Leader Love and Representative Dixon, you're on education too, right? And okay, I thought Tori was too. Okay, so we all serve on education, and we're watching this happen in real time, right? And the lunacy coming from some of the members that serve on education is ridiculous. Now, so they made a mistake in the first place when they first came up with the idea of 3rd grade retention. Then they came back and tried to fix it. So what you're seeing is the patch to save egos and save face, because the cry was so large that it, they were frankly embarrassed about, what it is that they've done. Now, the state does make the rules. The Department of Education follows the rules. However, the Department of Education has a ton of leniency and leeway in order to decide, which programs or which programs are available, this, that, and other. And then some of it is passed also to Metro Nashville schools in this case. And so And that's where some of the contracting comes into place, what kind of, programs you're going to have in the summer, this, that, and other, so on and so forth. So that's what you're dealing with. It's a big pile of, sorry, y'all. I see you, Rev. It's a big pile of stuff and bureaucracy mixed all in together that's affecting our children. And what's interesting is they didn't realize, when they were casting that net was only supposed to catch your child. But it caught their children too, right? And that's why we're seeing a reversal, a turnaround. Like, oh, that's not what we meant to do. Such as just like the Achievement School District, they said it at the bottom 5% because if it opened up to the bottom 20%, you're gonna get some of these rural schools. And last time I checked, if you made it 69, you were failing. So why wasn't it at the bottom 69% of schools? Right, so that's what we're dealing with, and I hear you and feel your frustration about it. We're frustrated too.
And let me add to this also. One of the challenges we've had consistently is tracing the contracts for testing. So one year we discovered that the company providing the testing was tied to the superintendent. Tied to the commissioner, right? And then we found also that the testing wasn't being done properly. And we had to gather on the House floor to rewrite the bill and to hold school districts harmless for that year because the testing was not happening. Parents, you may remember when the online testing did not go through right, and they were talking about giving out paper tests with pencils to get kids to test. So part of our challenge also has been to try to track down this contracts that people have. And to Representative Parkinson's point, you had rural school districts who were complaining also. And you're seeing that their numbers are woefully low, and so this is the fight that we're engaged in, is following the dollar for these testing and these other subject areas. Correct.
They are completely different. So like I said, I've reached out to the chief of staff, and they're like, oh, well, we're only doing what. They're putting it on you all. They're putting everything on you all, and it's
here's
a cop-out.
Here's the basic function of government. Truth. Yes, departments are designed to carry out the law. That's the executive branch function. With the legislative branch, we write the laws. But what they're not telling you is legislators who we told not to carry the bill carried it anyway. And they were in collaboration with the administration. You'll hear terms like these, it's an administrative bill. Yes. That means that the governor's office has asked someone on the legislative end to carry the bill, and the unintended consequences, as Representative Parkinson said, is everybody else was caught up in it, and we were not. Okay. So that's the issue. So the Department of Education will say, yes, the General Assembly told us to do it, but what they won't tell you is they asked us to pass the bill.
Okay, so not the question, but the advice. What would be the advice for a mother who's going these extra miles to talk to the heads of these departments and they're doing this? What would be some advice that you can give me? Because like I said, with Tess Yates, the chief of staff, and it's endless.
Call your state representative.
Okay.
And one clear piece is try to get Metro Nashville Public Schools to accept something else besides the one summer reading program.
And that's something that we did do, and that they rejected it because they said that it didn't have the math portion because it's specifically a reading literacy program. But if the law is for low proficiency in reading, why would that program be dismissed? So that's another thing, but not to hold you guys' time, I think it's absolutely important. So thank you for your advice.
Just a quick question for pastoral privilege. We know the impact the Covenant School shooting had on our community, and we saw the record numbers of people that joined armed to protest, link arms in our city. The governor's called a special session to address that type of potential red flag, which I think is just passe way of making it look like he's interested in making change. What can we do about gun violence? We worked on a bill with Representative Parkinson to declare a public health emergency. That didn't get traction last 2 sessions ago. What are we doing for the special session to address not only the gun violence that comes with mass shootings, but the gun violence that still plagues Black communities in a way that it doesn't others?
Okay, so I guess I'll bite the apple first. So for special session, I am cautiously optimistic that we even address gun violence. You know, a lot of times they'll come up with these special sessions, then, well, as we all know, they'll come up with a whole slew of other stuff they'll address instead of the thing that we declared the special session for. As long as it opens up that section of code, they can go into any party that they want. And they can go all around gun violence. They can make it about mental health or about people with 2 left shoes on, anything. So we got to be careful, and we got to watch out for them sliding in the mess. But as far as legislation for special session, I think one step in the right direction is repealing the open carry law. I think when we told people that they can carry a firearm without any training, without any license, without sitting through a video, we messed up. Because if we go to the gas station every day now, we see guys with pistols with extended clips in their pocket. Matter of fact, one boy, he scared me so bad I had to tell him. I said, "Hey man, you gonna shoot your parts off the way he had his gun." So we got so many people that's carrying firearms without proper training, without proper safety training. So I think we need to repeal that. Matter of fact, we have our caucus, we have a bill that's fresh off the press for special session to repeal that law.
Another thing is this, is that, well, we got to have more numbers, as we said earlier. We can't do it. We have to keep bringing it up, but we can't do it. We got to have more votes in order to do it. The other thing is this. Right, in the hallways, in the committee meetings, that helps a tremendous amount. Other thing is this, is that we need to try to get this bill changed where you can carry a gun at 18. It needs to be 21. 18-year-olds doesn't need to be slinging around. You know, that's exactly right. We said it on the House floor before, they're too emotional with this. So now if you're a military person or you're a police officer, that's a little different. But we need to try to get the age raised to 21. The other thing is this, is that guns have always been around, and they're going to be around this country. They're not going anywhere. And a lot of us are mature enough to know that when there were guns in our household, that our parents knew how to govern us. You didn't have a gun you could bring in my mother's house, okay? Well, that didn't happen, okay? So you have all these youngsters, these kids with guns, so there's culpability and responsibility on everybody's part. How does a 13-year-old have a gun in your house, or a 15-year-old have a gun in your house? That's unacceptable. Okay, how 18-year-old got a gun in your house? You can't bring it in my house. You don't pay the bills here, and I'm your daddy. And you're going to do what I ask you to do, you got the stepson, okay? So it has to be worked on all sides in order to stop it. And one of our good colleagues had a deal where we have to figure out where there's human interaction, you have conflict. You got to teach the young men and boys and girls how to resolve the conflict without going out and making it a terminable deal. You know, when we were kids, the kids you got in a fight with, they end up being your best friend because we just fought with our fists, okay? So we got to get back to what some of the old folk taught us of how to resolve our conflicts. So thank you, sir.
If I could, Pastor, we know how a lot of the changes that we wanted to take place happen. It started in the church. Right now, the majority in the legislature is counting on people become frustrated, disenfranchised again on the issue of gun violence. And so we have to keep that in the forefront of the people's minds as to the different ways that gun violence impact our community. And not just the inner city, but just throughout the state. And so that coalition that you spoke of earlier, people from all walks of life, we have to find a way of keeping that energized so that if no change is taking place in this special session, that people make the changes necessary at election time.
All right. Unfortunately, we are way past time. See us after we're done. Yes, we'll stick around and talk to you one-on-one. But before we go, I want to just acknowledge and thank one of our legislative staffers that is here, Marissa King. Yes, she is so phenomenal on the Hill and has helped us put this event together. So kudos to Marissa. She does way more than she should, and thank you for all that you do for us and for Tennessee. I also want to recognize Kim Cox in the audience. She's one of the dopest black women on the Hill. She serves as deputy clerk in the House chambers. Bad woman right there, so get to know her. Thank you for your service as well. And thank you, Pastor Marble, for opening your church for us to have this event. Anybody else that I missed? Oh, Allison Sneed.
Snuck in the back.
Oh,
Stand
in the
up.
back, yes. She's here as well. And Alicia was here as well earlier. One of the legislative staffers for Representative Dixie was here as well. So thank you all for coming, for opening up your heart and your ideas, to giving us ideas for next legislative session, what to fight for. Keep up the energy. We hope to see you in August at the special session, but also in January when we open up regular session. And always feel free to call us. Our offices are open all year round, so keep us in the loop. Thank you again, and have a great night.